bad publicity is good publicity type deal. It's adding to the interest and the storylines in the women's tournament. The court fiasco is in some ways it's good because it's just drawing more attention.
Yeah, the only bad publicity is when you're in the obituary column.
That is, yep, you said it.
That is not good publicity.
That or if you lose to a 6 seed as a number 2 seed.
John.
I'm trying to give you a segue here.
John just laid it up there. So I know this. When I run into people and they say, I follow the U of A. And, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's like the Dallas Cowboy fans are just so arrogant and full of themselves. And I said, would you say you're a diehard U of A? Oh, yeah, I'm a diehard U of A fan. I said, yeah, you've died hard many times. And they don't like that joke. But I mean, anybody who tries to explain it away, like, well, this was a good learning curve, this will be good for next year's team. Well, let's just be clear. There will be no next year's team. Most everybody's going to go in the portal. So this idea of getting experience, that's old school. That doesn't apply anymore, John.
I agree with you 99% of the way. It does apply to Tommy Lloyd, though, because he will be back. And it is easy to forget. I think he's almost 50. He's been around for a long time. It's easy to forget. This is only his 3rd season as a head coach. He's coached 108 games, I think it is, as the boss. And he has a learning curve for sure. His 3 Arizona teams have underperformed in March. They have lost, 1 seed, 2 seed to teams that were much lower seeds. The Clemson game, that they should have won that game and they deserve to lose. Both things equally true. The shot selection, poor. Adjustments to Clemson's tactics, poor. And everybody's putting all the focus on Arizona's 3-point shooting. They lost that game because their defense was horrendous in the final minutes. Every time down court, Clemson was getting layups out of a half-court offense, out of bounds plays. The fundamentals just completely collapsed defensively for Arizona. That is coaching. And it was not a good look for Lloyd or for Arizona's programs. They're very creative in how they lose these games in March, right? I mean, this was not the same blueprint we saw against Princeton or Houston or Buffalo or Xavier or East Tennessee State or Santa Clara, right? I mean, no program has taken on more bad losses in NCAA play over the course of decades than Arizona, in my opinion. And it's just going to get tougher starting next season in the Big 12.
When you hear people say, well, this was a great season that our Cats put together for them, do you agree with that? I never do. I feel bad for the kids that, your career is done or you're going to move on or whatever it may be. But when I hear all year long about how great we are, we're U of A and bear down and all that stuff, and every March, it's hard to play basketball when you have your hands around your neck. It's really hard to do that because that's what happens every March. They choke. There's no other way to spin it, put it. And if you're going to say that, then you're just getting a check from the U of A. You're on their payroll, John.
And they do it. I think this is a real interesting piece. They lose in the West, right? They always have a high seed. Yeah. They're always placed in the West. Spokane, Salt Lake,
big
Sacramento,
fan base
LA.
Is there for them. Big fan bases come rolling in. It's a home court.
And what path did they take to the national title in 1997? Memphis, Birmingham, and then Indianapolis. I wonder if they're better off getting shipped. I put this on Twitter. Tommy Lloyd ought to request getting sent to Vladivostok next year because I think that there's something to the fact that they've got this huge fan base and there's enormous expectations. They got a home court advantage and they feel the pressure. There is zero doubt about that. So we'll see. In the Big 12, you lose more games. It's a tougher league. You lose more games in the regular season and you get a lower seed. Maybe they'll get shipped out more. But to your question about kind of judging the season, I do agree with you that if you flame out against a lower seed in the NCAA tournament, that is kind of how the season is defined. But some fans, and it's an old school view, you take pleasure in the grind and you get November to 4 months of enjoyment from watching your team, right? And you're not necessarily thinking about March when you're playing and cheering in November and December and January, right? You're enjoying the in the moment experience of following your team. And in that way, sure, it's a successful season because Arizona gave their fans 4 months of success. But what do you remember when you look back? How is Lloyd's performance defined? How's the program defined? By March. And they really struggle.